Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Miko, and for today's video, I'd like to share with you a little bit more about how I take notes on my iPad. So I uploaded this video about 2 weeks ago talking about how I take notes on my iPad using GoodNotes 5 and a little bit about the accessories I use. That video got quite a lot of views, and for today's video I thought I would answer the questions you guys left in the comment sections below and also the questions I got personally from my friends. If you're new to the channel and haven't checked out the previous video, I will put the link here. Make sure to check that out because I will not mention whatever I already said in that video just not to be repetitive. So without further ado, let's get right into this. So question number 1. Have I noticed any wear on my Apple Pencil tip after using the Paperlike screen protector? I would say that after 1 year of usage, there is definitely some wear on the tip. For me at least, at some angle, the tip will have a pretty nice friction, but at another angle, it will be completely smooth and does not make the friction sound. So let me show you. At first, when you just got your Paperlike screen protector and your tip is still brand new, it should make this sound when you write. But if I just turn this around a little bit, it will be much more smooth. You can barely hear the sound of the friction. So for me, I have to sort of aim for the angle that it will create a better friction for me when I take notes. I am definitely thinking of getting a new tip, but also because I am a heavy user of the Apple Pencil, I would imagine that someone who does professional drawing or someone who likes to take all their notes on their iPad is probably going to face the same problem. But I think having some friction on this iPad when I write on it definitely improved my user experience. Sometimes I also notice that on the area I write the most, it tends to be less friction after I write for a while. So what I do is I grab a piece of tissue, wet it a little bit, and use it to wipe off the oil I leave on the screen protector. Cleaning the screen protector would usually increase the friction if the problem is on your screen protector but not your Apple Pencil tip. So question number 2, also about the Paperlike screen protector. Have I noticed a decrease in the resolution when I watch video? I would say there is a tiny little bit decrease in the resolution, but I don't think it would affect your watching experience. I watch Netflix a lot, especially Terrace House, using my iPad all the time. I would say I didn't notice much difference in terms of resolution, but my screen does look a little bit darker with the Paperlike screen protector. But I also have to tell you guys that I am using the first generation Paperlike screen protector. I know that Paperlike recently launched their second generation screen protector. I have not tried that because my first generation babe is working perfectly well. Something I did notice about this Paperlike screen protector is that it will have a pretty strong reflection if you have a light source coming right above it. This is pretty funny because I recently just figured out I can just turn off my desk lamp and it would be perfectly fine. Somehow my brain took 1 year to process the idea that the light I am seeing from my iPad is actually directly emitted from my iPad instead of being the refraction or reflection from other light source. Sorry to my physics professor, but I would say that it was really annoying when I was studying in the library. You know, I can't just turn off the big light. And question number 3, what pen size I use in GoodNotes? So for whoever that left that comment in the previous video, I'm so sorry. I read it as something totally different until today someone corrected me. I was like, that makes so much more sense. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I have very small handwriting. For my handwritten notes, I use the ball pen function with the first thickness that I preset to 0.3 millimeter. And sometimes if I am writing in a PowerPoint that usually the font is larger, I either use the second one, which is preset to 0.5 millimeter, or even larger that is set to 0.9. And as you can tell, you can customize the thickness of your pen by just dragging this little circle around pretty easily. As a reference, when I write on actual paper, I like to use 0.38 millimeter pens. So this is my little pencil case that I barely use. since I got this iPad, but I still write on planners, and when I write on scratch paper, I like to use actual pens. I think most of the pens I have a 0.38, except for my pencil that's 0.5, and except for this ball pen that is 0.7. And this one is from Muji, and I only use this to write on my carbon copy lab notebooks. For those of you who might be interested, my highlighter thickness is set to 2.3 millimeter for the first one, 3.0 for the second one, and 5.0 millimeter for the last one. Question number 4, what template do you use? I like to use the letter size template whenever I write, and I recently found out that Paperlike have template that is dark paper. You can actually change your paper color right here by changing them to dark or yellow or white. For the size of the paper, I like to use letter size because I live in the US and the size of the printing paper is usually letter. Even though most of the time I make my notes on this iPad, I still like to print my notes out to review. So that's why I use letter paper. You can honestly use whichever one you want. There is the difference of like the GoodNotes, standard, A7, A6, blah blah blah, and I just found the letter size most useful. And since I found out about the dark size, I was trying it during the weekend to make some review notes for my endocrinology class. So as you can see, my exam 3 review notes is all written in this dark mode. With the dark paper, one thing you need to pay attention to is you can't really print them out and just flip them into a white paper background and have your handwriting be black. I didn't really think about that before I write this down. I wasn't gonna print. I know a lot of people who like dark mode and set their computer and their phone to dark mode. However, with GoodNotes, dark mode is not really compatible with printing unless you want to still print the background as pure black and print out your notes as white. So if you're like me who still prefer to print out your notes for review, I would recommend you to write on a white background. And finally, question number 5. What are the pros and cons of taking notes on an iPad to study? So let's start from pros. I would definitely say that it is much easier at the end of each semester when I am thinking about trying to store my notes. Because I always put so much effort into my notes, I am reluctant to toss them away. But at the same time, I'm also too lazy to scan all of them. I know my friend who scanned all his handwritten notes, and that is a lot of work. So I brought out my notes that I haven't been able to toss away because I know I would need them in the future. So this is how much notes or how much paper I have for my organic chemistry class, and this is not even all of them because I still have a thin notebook that I lent to my kohai. And here is another one, and this one is for my biochemistry from last semester, which my professor actually printed out the PowerPoint for us to take notes on them. Besides saving on my notes, I also find it just more friendly to the environment because you can tell this is quite a lot of paper. Another benefit I would definitely mention is that I can search up my handwritten notes with GoodNotes. This function of the GoodNotes app is revolutionary, and it is what truly digitalizes your handwritten notes. Some people might prefer to convert their handwritten notes into typed letters. I like to keep my handwritten notes in my handwriting because something about the handwriting makes me more familiar with the content. I described how you would search up your handwriting in the previous video, so make sure to check that out. With being able to store your notes on your iPad and search up your handwritten notes, I can easily look up some concept I learned in the past but I don't quite remember. And finally, another huge benefit for me and for other people who are working for the academia or do research is that now you can easily store your annotation that you make on the papers you read. For me, I probably read over hundreds of papers throughout college, and before I got the iPad, sometimes I will re-encounter a paper and clearly remember that I had read this, but because I already tossed the printing away, I don't have my annotations for this paper anymore. And this is probably partially on me because I just don't like to make annotation on PDF using my computer. So with GoodNotes, now I can save my handwritten annotations, and whenever I want, I can search them up using the search function. Now let's talk about some cons of using the iPad to take notes. First of all, I definitely noticed that my eyes get tired sometimes after I read the notes or use iPad for too long. This is probably the biggest concern some people would have, because now that instead of staring at your computer and sometimes write on your actual paper to take notes, I have to stare at my computer and stare at another screen, which is my iPad, to make notes. I don't really have a good solution to this except for telling you that you need to look out of your window, look at trees and birds, and just don't stare at your screen for too long. I would recommend getting eye drops if that's something you would find useful. And the second disadvantage is that I don't get to buy cute stationery and notebooks anymore. Getting cute stationery was a big source of happiness of mine. Now that I choose to take my notes mostly on my iPad, I don't get the chance to actually write on paper, and I do miss that sometimes. But as I've said, I still use actual paper to take notes sometimes. I will just have to transfer them onto my GoodNotes, spending a little bit more time. And I know there are a lot of people out there using GoodNotes to make digital planner. I don't like to do that. I still buy actual planner and I still spend money and spend time to make it cute, which compensates my loss of using cute notebooks for every single class of mine. Some people might be a little bit worried about storage problem. I have not run into this problem so far. I have the 256 gigabytes iPad. As far as I have noticed, handwritten notes doesn't take too much space. It is usually the PDF of my textbook that is larger. But even with my textbooks, usually one textbook would take probably about 1 gigabyte of space, and apparently I don't take 200 classes in college, so far so good. And I think that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you liked it. And for those of you who might still have questions, leave them in the comment section below. For those of you who are new to this channel, I upload every Thursday, so there are some nice content coming up every week. Hit that bell so you don't miss out any info. Wait, I think the bell's on this side. Never mind. Hit that bell so you don't miss the new videos coming out. Thank you again for watching today's video. I hope you have a fantastic day. I will see you next Thursday. Bye-bye. I am currently filming this video one day before my birthday, so I will be editing and uploading this video on my birthday.